Welcome everyone for the monthly review or technical steering committee of the EVerest project. Before we start, I have to quickly show this notice because there could be competing companies meeting here monthly. So please be kind to each other and to the law. And yeah, let's dive into what have we done with EVerest. Typical structure is always a quick recap. You can also skip this in the recording. What's EVerest? Then we go through what's new, what we will do soon. And then we have some updates on technical steering committee. I just realized I got the call for papers. I will put that on the audio line. Okay, so what is EVerest? We are one project within the LF Energy software stack. This is a software suite or collaboration for the deep decarbonization of the electric power grid. And we are the gateway to cars in a nutshell, or an operating system for chargers. Why are we doing this? Because the industry is super fragmented at the moment. It's super inconsistent in software and hardware standards. And yeah, I think by cleaning this up, we can save a lot of costs for everyone in the field. And we can also improve user experience quite a bit and can accelerate innovation. So the software runs on a Chargebyte and connects to all those external interfaces. So it's really a firmware for an embedded device out there and charging your car. And it has connection to the electric grid, to home solar and home batteries, to other home consumption things like, for example, heat pumps, to other local chargers, to your car for sure with a lot of different standards, to cloud and payment things, to user interface and maybe apps, to energy forecast and energy price APIs, and last but not least, electric grid. Not all of this is implemented yet, but we're working on it. And if you are interested in helping us and joining us with this, we are here. We are happy to have you in our team. So, and why are we have so many standards? Why are we not doing just a better standard solving all of the above? Because we would add another standard, we would just ending up with more standards, so nothing would be solved. So where can you try this hardware? You can try it with the Pionix Development Kit. It's basically a hardware set for AC, partly even DC charging, which is entirely open hardware and open source. Also the embedded microcontroller firmware that will be released in the next weeks or next months, let's see. But on request, you can already get it. And it's all about trying out EVerest in a really, really flexible environment. It's not for productive use. But there's also more vendors coming, like Chargebyte with their Charge Control C and EVerest SE coming soon with EVerest. Texas Instruments and Phytech are porting EVerest for their system on a module, system on a chip, and also the development boards. And there's more going on behind the scenes. We are happy if you're onboarding us here. So the ecosystem, again, quick recap is Pionix donated the project. Linux Foundation is supervising it. We have a lot of university partners. We're advertising this in a lot of hacker and maker events. And we're trying to cover the entire supply chain on EV charging with partners on every step here. So what's new? Let's dive into that. We had a webinar last weekend, last Friday evening, where we, for example, demonstrated different use cases, what you can do with EVerest, from simple AC charger to AC-DC hybrid charger, to a distributed charger park where you have multiple outlets and a central payment terminal, distributed energy management for entire sites, and ending up with software in the loop test. And you can do many, many more things with these building blocks, and even invent or modify blocks to make even more awesome things yourself. If you haven't seen it, watch the recording. It's here on YouTube. Happy to have you there. So what's new? Handing over to Manuel.
Thanks a lot. So documentation and support setup. Last time we showed what we want to do in theory. Now today we can say we have already started that. A great thing for all tech writers out there, like me. I was really happy that I now can develop documentation inside of a Docker container. What that means is I can have a live preview of the documentation. It's rendered directly so that I can see the whole documentation in the IDE, and yeah, makes documentation much simpler to do. So no things with Git actions anymore and so on. What made that possible? That made possible that I now could have a first version of a new quick start guide It's nearly finished. It's currently in review by developers. So what does that quick start guide have in it? We start from a really high level view on EVerest. What does the framework do? What is in there? Which tools do you have? How do the modules work together? And up to how do you develop your first module in EVerest? So we wanted to get you as quick as possible into development. I hope that end of next week, this quick start guide will already be live on everest.github.io. What do we have additionally? We have optimized the way to get the documentation of modules that are inside of EVerest Core now included. So it's also a technical optimization here. And we worked on pre-building EVerest during the script phase. So we have some things that are prepared before generation of the whole documentation that are, for example, getting some markdown files in the big documentation included so that the generation of the documentation can then run and build the whole thing on github.io. So that was one thing. Marco, you can switch to the next slide. Thanks. What we also will do, it's a work in progress. The documentation is currently done on GitHub, on Git branches. And the problem that we had was if I develop documentation and I have it on my branch and want to go into the review with developers, they could not build the whole documentation and see how that new stuff of the documentation is integrated. We are working on having some kind of staging system for documentation. So that you can also see based on branches how the whole thing will look like, what we are working on. Structure-wise, we will optimize the storyline of the whole documentation. So going from the top-level perspective to general module structure and down to how-tos when developers have dedicated use cases like implementing some new hardware and make that thing running with EVerest. We will add some things, some best practices, how you can do that. What I also want to do is getting the typical CI colors of EVerest into the documentation. So we are also thinking that direction to get it a little bit better fitting to our trademarking of EVerest. And the last thing, what we have here as a new thing is we want to get all modules that are currently part of EVerest documented in a reasonable detail, I would say, and have that in a whole big documentation and not alone in some lost GitHub repositories. Yeah, this is what's happening right now. So all in all, we are working on getting new contributors a little bit easier into the project. And we hope that end of the year, we can show you some really cool first stuff regarding documentation.
And I really, really hope for having also more graphics and explaining how things work in there.
Also in the pipeline, yes.
Cool, awesome. Okay, OCPP, Philip?
Yeah, we have been at the Plugfest. I think it was the week before. Quite interesting tests with other CSMS solutions. So far, the test runs very well. Everything runs smooth. We had the chance to test the security functionality. And so far, our list is quietly increasing. Now we have already 22, I think a bit more or less, tested OCPP backend so far. And yeah, try to work on smart charging in the future.
Thank you. Then from our friends at Chargebyte, they released yesterday, 2 days ago, the new XC parser generator code into a private repository. We still have to do some cleanup before we can do that public. If someone want to help working with that, just let us know. On the encoder section, where code generator has started, and decoder section still ongoing work. Yeah, let's see. Let's develop that together in the public. And some overview / update, what kind of different CPUs and operating system and build systems we're supporting. We did in one of the last updates announcing that we're also doing CMake now and BitBake. We have, over the last weeks, added quite some different Yocto versions, which we're now supporting, because we had different CPUs to be supported, like NXP, AMX, AM6X, the different generations from Texas Instruments. So we're still supporting the Raspberry Pi, and there's more and more silicon, more and more boards now easily accessible with our build chain. And that might also be useful. And there's quite some discussion going on around this on the mailing list. So what's next? We have basically added, cleaned up the roadmap a bit. So on the left, you see what's already working. We'll not read through that. You can just pause the video. And what's on the roadmap for next year. So this is basically OCPP 1.6 Flux and Charge, OCPP 2.0, ISO 158-20, and also getting all the Java dependencies out of what we're doing at the moment. Getting the energy management more pre-planning in the future, not only doing the ad hoc planning. Groundwork is already made. We have the concepts and architecture for the algorithms ready. We just have to implement them. IEEE 2030.5 is on our roadmap, ADR, or Open ADR integration, and EBUS, and maybe more. There's also some different public funding projects in the way, which maybe will fund part of this work. So let's see what's going on there. And yeah, call for papers. This is super awesome. There's a dedicated LF Energy track on the FOSDEM in February next year. We and the EVerest project and some other projects from LF Energy are supervising this track, and we're calling for contribution. So please read through it, and please send us your suggestions, what you want to speak about, what projects we maybe should co-hack together. Deadline is quite soon, 3rd of December. So please have a look and see what and how you can contribute. If you just want to be a participant, super fine as well. See you there. And next technical steering committee will be on 22nd of December, so our Christmas party. Sign up here on the mailing list, or just, if you want, join our weekly development calls every Tuesday, 10 a.m. Central European Time Zone. And we're doing all the architectural discussions and heavy lifting and how to do things and what is about certain merge requests. Everything happens there. Have a look. And today we have a new section, the TSC Team. We want to change a bit the structure. I think at the moment we did misinterpreted our own statutes a bit, and we want to change that to reflect like more the reality, so that the voting members for the TSC are explicitly mentioned in our documentation. And basically want to change that not everyone who can commit is automatically a voting member, but explicitly listed persons. The current proposal would be, again, me and Cornelius, as we did this all the time, and that including also Kai and Anton from Pionix, as me and Cornelius also from Pionix, and Moritz from Chargebyte. And yeah, if anyone else, especially from other companies, is interested to become a voting member of EVerest, just let us know. And if you want to become a contributing member, just let us know. We're super happy to get you on board. And in principle, so the current members have to vote about this, Cornelius and me. And yeah, so we agree to that. Not sure how we should do it beside this. And yeah, this is like the new process. We will publish that on the website, and with that, it will be binding. And that's basically the updates from our side. We'll stop recording now, and happy to get your feedback and go into the discussion.